Until recently, the Range Rover stood as a seemingly impermeable bulwark against the very concept of downsizing. The physical scale of Land Rover's flagship luxury SUV was imposing enough, but this was also matched by power plants that clearly equated bigger with better, intended for an ownership demographics with little concern about fuel costs. Sure, there have been diesel versions for some time, initially for European skinflints and also now in America, but the first full-size, gasoline Range Rover to use anything other than a V8 appeared fairly recently, in 2012. High's immediate torque, 30 miles of silent motoring, off-road ability, on-road comfort. Low's mass gain, neither the engine nor the chassis is happy at higher speeds, fuel economy advantage likely to prove illusory. Now the supercharged 3.0-litre V6 that understudies the current 8 is being joined by an even smaller power plant, one set to further trim the clan's average cylinder count. Despite its muscular-sounding model designation, the new P400e, arriving in Europe at the same time as a lineup-wide facelift, uses an inland four as its prime mover. This 296-horsepower version of Jaguar Land Rover's Ingenium turbocharged 2.0-litre works in conjunction with a 114-horsepower electric motor integrated into the 8-speed automatic transmission, a powertrain the US market will first see this summer in the smaller Range Rover Sport P400e. The combined output is 398 horsepower, more than either of the V6 variants, although still way short of the 518 and 557 horsepower supercharged V8s. The more striking number is the one delivered by the 13.1 kWh lithium-ion battery pack that sits under the rear cargo floor, 31 miles. That's Land Rover's claim for purely electric operation. Several of the P400e's other statistics seem flatly contradictory, although that's largely due to the peculiarities of the European testing regime. The outright silliest is the score equivalent to 84 miles per gallon on the UDG consumption test, which is only possible because the assessment allows a plug-in hybrid to begin with its battery pack fully charged and finish with it fully depleted. That's a bit like letting a standard combustion model get an undeclared top-up from a jerrycan stashed in the back. For any journey substantially beyond its electric range, Land Rover acknowledges that the P400e's fuel economy is unlikely to prove better than that delivered by the TD6 diesel model, on the basis of trip computer readings rather than brim tanks. Real-world economy in the low 20 mpg range seems likely. A large percentage of the world's Range Rover fleet, however, is used primarily for short journeys in close proximity to charging ports. Attending mass recharging the onboard battery pack entails opening a flap integrated into the radiator grille to access the plug. According to Land Rover, a 32-amp level 2 connection can top off the electrons in 2 hours and 45 minutes, but times on a standard 120-volt supply will be far longer, at a claimed 14 hours. The sizable battery also adds mass, and we're estimating a 5,700-pound curb weight. According to Land Rover's own figures, it's 558 pounds heftier than the V6 and 278 pounds more than the 518 horsepower V8 edition. The 557 horsepower V8 model is only 27 pounds lighter than the P400e, Land Rover claims. Yet at lower speeds the powertrain's ability to blend both gasoline and electrical power effectively disguises this increase in weight, and the P400e launches keenly as the motor lends its assistance. Land Rover claims a 6.4-second 0 to 60 mph time. Responses are also a measure snappier than in conventional runnies, with the electric side of the powertrain filling the gap as the turbocharged engine spools up, while acceleration starts to fade as the P400e approaches triple-digit speeds, in marked contrast with the lessening anti-physics that is the Range Rover Sport SVR, it still feels plenty quick. Refinement under everyday use is good, but the gasoline engine makes some inappropriately proletarian noises when pushed into the top quarter of its rev range. Far better to adopt a more relaxed pace and enjoy the near-silent electric running that the car defaults to at low speeds. Yes, there are switchable modes. The P400e can be coaxed into F operation through a button on the center console, with pure electric operation possible at speeds of up to 85 miles per hour, although anything other than gentle pressure on the accelerator pedal will kick the internal combustion engine back to life. There also is a save mode, which holds on to existing battery charge for later use, but it's accessed through a submenu of a submenu in the infotainment system and is not easy to find. If a destination is programmed into the navigation system, then, as with systems from rivals such as Mercedes-Benz, the P400e will attempt to use the available charge as intelligently as possible. Wade in the water, waft down the way impressively, the P400e will still go as far off-road as almost any other Range Rover. Our drive route included a chance to experience both the battery compartment's waterproofing and the car's claimed 35.4-inch wading capability, with the air-spring suspension in its raised position, by driving through a shallow lake. As the electric motor sits between the conventional engine and the transmission, its effort is sent through the 8-speed ZF automatic and onto all four corners through the same array of electronic and mechanical traction boosting aids as its non-hybrid sisters. At very low speeds, the electric motor's instant torque allows for finer control than with a conventional engine. This is the model to pick for oak scrambling. On the highway, the pillowy air springs continue to impress, although the P400e's considerable mass becomes more evident as velocity rises. Ride quality is outstanding at urban paces, even over broken surfaces and in a car that rides on 21-inch wheels. But moderate cornering loads create noticeable body lean, and the ultimate grip limits are predictably modest, as the soft springs struggle to maintain discipline at higher speeds. The steering is accurate behind light assistance, and the Range Rover remains an easy car to place even on narrow English lanes thanks to the excellent visibility given by the pedestal-like driving position, but it is definitely happiest at a stately pace. Regenerative braking is less aggressive than in many hybrids and EVs, partially because it's much heavier, and blends cleanly with the hydraulically operated friction brakes at lower speeds. The Range Rover also has a fresh look, with a slimmer grille and a strong family resemblance to the smaller Vela. LED headlights are standard, with the option in Europe of laser high beams. It also gets sequentially illuminating turn signals. The interior has been slightly redesigned and now gets the dual-screen version of JLR's InControl Touch Pro infotainment package. While this is more intuitive than the same system in the Vela, the Range Rover's rotary temperature controls are never usurped for other functions. It feels slow to respond and short on intuitive smarts compared to rival systems. Greener alternative to diesel. While many earlier plug-in hybrids were designed for the US market, with sales buoyed by the magical ability they gave to unlock off lanes, the center for demand for FEVs has shifted, and this part electric Rover is aimed more at Europe than Asia or America. In its British homeland, the P400e already accounts for 20% of Range Rover sales thanks to generous tax incentives and buyers looking to flee from diesel models whose green status has been discredited. The home market demand was met first, but JLR promises American deliveries later this year as a 2019 model, trailing the facelifted, conventionally powered 2018s that are already at dealers. Like most plug-ins, if you set aside government subsidies and perks, the Range Rover still struggles to make a value-based case for itself, especially with pricing that makes it nearly as expensive as the faster, better-sounding, and more dynamic V8 version when it goes on sale in the States. The P400e is $96,145 to start, just $9,700 less than the cheapest V8 model. As a large, luxury plug-in hybrid SUV, the P400e goes straight to the top of an underpopulated segment, but it would not be our first choice of Range Rover.